I'm Mikal Vega, and I'm the only one in the room that realizes the death of my son was a gift of the infinite.
So Mikal Vega.
Yes.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. I'm really happy to see you in person.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have an in-person interview.
I haven't
Yes.
looked at my guests for a while, so this is really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is.
Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me 2 songs, one that you use maybe to pump yourself up and the other that you use to calm yourself down?
Well. Very interesting because it's all mantra now.
Okay.
So mantra does the same thing
Right.
at all times,
All right.
right? So do I have to make this a short answer?
No, go ahead.
All right. So in the past, it's like Tool, Pink Floyd, Metallica,
Yeah.
all these types of things that,
Yeah.
the book in the cover. But now it's all mantra, because mantra, when you can tap into the sound current, the seed of it, the nod is what they call it, the center of the sound, then it gives you both
I like that.
at any given time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then because what that does is it connects. When you connect that, you're connecting to your own sound current as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's the sound that's created by the mind or the voice or the unification of the two, ideally,
Yeah.
the yoga of the two,
Yeah.
then you get everything you need therein.
You have a great voice.
Thank you.
It's just, I can feel it like here and here and here. I'm pointing to my forehead, to my throat and my chest.
You should come to one of my classes where I use I use my voice, sound, and all these types of things in my classes to open up the space so people can have the experience of
All
themselves.
right. So maybe our listeners will have that just now anyway, while they're listening to you.
Oh, and all things that we create. As we work on ourselves, as we start to incorporate these principles, everything we create, say, do, broadcast,
Yes.
affects everybody,
Yeah.
whether consciously or subconsciously or.
Right. It's great. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. I am Laura Cathcart Robbins, and this is The Only One in the Room, but I'm never the only one in this room, especially today,
Right.
because as usual, my boyfriend, producer, and co-host, Scott Slaughter, who I call Hun, is here as well.
Hi, honey.
Hey, honey.
Hey, honey.
Hey, what's up?
I have honey in my tea.
I
He
like
does have
it.
honey.
We found some honey in the cupboard.
So today we are obviously talking to Mikal Vega.
I know, it's pretty cool.
And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about him, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so he is Vital Warrior nonprofit founder and CEO. Mikal Vega is a Navy SEAL retired and 22-year combat veteran and professional actor. And there's more, but we'll get into that later. Mikal has walked the tough road from trauma to recovery after suffering a combat-related injury from an exploded IED that caused severe cervical trauma, ulnar nerve damage, and a mild traumatic brain injury that went untreated for many years. He only realized the extent of his injuries later when he struggled in his daily life and in his personal relationships. Through a series of healing modalities, including Kundalini Yoga, that became the basis of his recovery, Mikal realized that he could help his fellow veterans and their families. Isn't that beautiful?
That is awesome.
Yeah. So, Mikal, let me just start by asking you a question I ask all of our guests, which is, how do you identify
With.
as a person? A lot of people identify with pronouns. Some people identify just as I am. People identify with
that's
race.
a good one.
Yeah.
For me.
You're-
God.
Okay. Yes.
Not the religious aspect, but the all-encompassing force of truth
Yeah.
is
Okay.
Satnam in Kundalini Yoga is truth is my identity. So I guess Satnam would be.
I love that.
Yes.
Yes.
Satnam.
Satnam.
Satnam. Okay.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, write that down, hon. Thank you for that. Tell me about becoming a Navy SEAL. And like, how do you qualify? What kind of mindset do you need? That kind of thing.
It's very interesting that you, oh man, I wish I would have brought that. It's very interesting you asked that. I just helped a young man, 26, prepare for SEAL training, and he just joined the Navy and is heading that way. So he, but some of the things that I told him, and if you had asked me this 10 years ago, it would be completely different, right?
Yeah.
So, in preparation for the SEAL teams, in the past, I would have said, make sure you can run, swim, you can endure the cold, that you have a no-quit attitude, all these times, right? Well, in actuality, training to go into the Naval Special Warfare community is 98% mental, right? So if you get the body prepared to baseline standards of being able to sustain the training, the rest of the work should be mental. And the highest, most effective means of preparing for that is this system that I teach. So I incorporated some of the principles that I've learned along the way of to develop true discipline and mental disciplines within the warrior ethos is what I call Vital Warrior. And what it is, it's a martial art of and for the mind. So the more you practice it, the stronger the mind gets, the more resiliency you build, the more clarity you get of the subconscious landscape of, what's going on. So instilling some of those principles would be critical in dealing with the adversity that they're going to present as you go through the training, right? When it's super cold, what are you doing? Are you focusing on what the body's doing? The body's shivering and it's cold and you can't take it, and you have all these, and then the subconscious thought forms of the mind come in. Well, you could have done this and you can do this. This is still there. That's there, that take you away from success in your endeavor. Success in achieving the calling that you've agreed to engage in. And that is the biggest thing. Knowing the why is going to go a long way to achieving that success. Because if you have a solid why, well, nobody can take that away.
Really interesting. So this is actually going to come into play a little bit later, because I'm going to probably follow back to that question, to that answer that you just gave me, because I think that it feeds into how your recovery, right? The way that you prepare your mind, your recovery from what you sustained while you were at war. Like, if you could have prepared your mind differently, then maybe you wouldn't have had to recover the same way.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
If we can instill, now we're tapping into some other stuff that's based upon experience, but it's also philosophical in nature, based upon my experience of the experiences I've had. It's a multi-layered type of thing there.
I like it. It's pretty deep.
So there's a difference between what we call a warrior in modern day society, in the military mindset, and what I've experienced is in actuality to be a war fighter. See, a war fighter focuses on cultivating a destructive force that they can exact upon the battlefield. They're doing their training every day. They're it's all about, violence of action, these types of things. And then in your free time, you're studying violence of action and, how to be more aggressive. You're training, you're doing the jiu-jitsu, you're doing all these types of things from that perspective of being immensely effective on the battlefield, which they are. which they are.
Yeah.
However, comma, when they come back home and there's no more enemy, well, that destructive energy remains.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they do is, what is happening is that we create an enemy within ourselves, and all of that destructive energy turns inward, and we're destroying ourselves. That's where all the suicides are coming from. That's where all the desperation of, finding purpose and all these types of things are coming from, right? That and doing that over the last 20 years, this year is the 20-year anniversary of 9/11, then that creates a very deep track of the standard operating procedures and how we go about our day-to-day life long after we've left the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
What I endeavor to do is bring realization to the warrior aspect. And here's the irony of it, right? The irony, let me define my version of what warrior is. For me, a warrior embodies all of the aforementioned of the destructive realm. It's all a scale. It's all a scale. What's the opposite of destruction? Creation.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have destructive and you have creative. We can, and these are superimposed on other. You're seeing where I'm taking this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't embrace creativity in our lives, then we can never bring balance to all the destructive events that we've had. And this isn't, this is not synonymous or sectioned off just for battlefield purposes. This is synonymous with living in the human existence.
Right.
Okay? So if we don't embrace creativity in some form and use that and serve that, then we're never going to find balance of the destructive things that have happened in our lives. So a warrior understands the importance of that. And the irony of it is, the war fighters that I've been around and those organizations, they all embody the ethos of warrior societies of the past. The Spartans, the American Indian, the Vikings. You've seen it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, the irony is that they embody the destructive aspects of it, but not the spiritual aspects, not the creative aspects.
Yeah.
And all of those societies were innately spiritual, and it wasn't something they did on Sundays. It was something that was embedded in the very fabric of their existence. Odin, the samurai, with calligraphy and family and cultivating life, the American Indian spirit, nature, earth, all these types of things, right? We, as war fighters, we admire the savagery, but we don't admire the creativity, the love that's going to balance the fear.
Right.
All of that. The creative that's going to balance the destructive. So what I endeavor to do with Vital Warrior is to bring an understanding that the warrior rides the razor's edge in between light, dark, heaven, hell, destructive, creative, and they draw power from both. And by doing so, it doesn't make them twice as powerful. It makes them infinite. It makes them infinitely more powerful because it ameliorates any fear, any doubt, any lack of confidence in what it is they're engaged on and off the battlefield. Right. So, and that, again, that applies to all.
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. That was like a sermon. That was awesome. I do want to still come back to that because I think it's really important for the what I have is the end of your story. But I want to just talk now about while you were in Iraq. And so you were in Iraq. How long were you there?
On and off from 2004 to 2007.
Okay. And so while you were there, what was going on with your son and his mother?
My 19-year-old son.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I have 4 children.
Right.
And my oldest 2 children also endured this. And when you're engaged in a mission like I was, it was challenging for me to balance family, which I didn't truly understand. My dad was a SEAL, so I had what I had, right? It's not an excuse. It's just, I didn't understand it, right? I'm starting to understand it now, but it's taken me a long time and a lot of work to get there. So, I didn't understand it at the time. And as a result, my children bore a lot of that weight, everybody bears that weight. And then when you come back and you're not really back, that's another whole, multi-layered, multifaceted, situation that's can get pretty adversarial. So, and there's no way that they can understand, and there's no way I can understand, so we have to just do what we can do with what we've got at the time, and then hopefully at one point in our lives we come back together and having some understanding,
Yeah.
So, but as far as my son, my son Seth, he was very special. He is very special, but his mother and I separated back in 2000. He was born in 2001. We separated in 2003 or 4. For various reasons, and she had some stuff she was going through, some chemical dependencies, these types of things, right? And I don't want to get too much into her business or anything like that, but she's since tried to work on herself, and hopefully she's doing well. I don't know what she's got going on these days, but my son and her, everybody has their thing, right? Everybody has their trials and tribulations as they're growing up. And while I was away, he suffered a pretty traumatic event, and and invariably, I feel, this is my personal opinion, invariably I feel that those events led to an event that had occurred last year that he's no longer with us in the body. But yeah, that's a deep one right there. Yeah. One that I'm very much still processing. Obviously, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of his death, so wow. I'm actually getting ready to leave and go into the jungles of Costa Rica to kind of unplug.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm so sorry. I know that you and I discussed this before, and I'm so sorry for the loss of him at whatever level you're choosing to look at that. And I know that you're holding him.
Here's the thing, and this is a testament to this system again. There's so much work that to be done, but there's so much work that I have done, and a testament to that work is that even with my son's death, I've been given gifts of understanding of his life.
Right.
And had it not been for his death, there's certain realizations that I've had that are just, it's like you have to have an experience of these things. I'll do my best to articulate it, but you have to have the experience. That's what my job is as a teacher, is to open a space for people to have those experiences.
Yeah.
And so of themselves, because that's what it is. Everybody's got a unique journey back to the singular journey.
Right. Well, actually, before you tell me about that, I just want to go back a little bit, because you said that your son had this traumatic experience while he was, how old was he around then?
6.
6 years old. You're over in Iraq at the time of this experience. So what do you do? What's your next action?
I was not in Iraq when this happened.
Where were you?
I was 2 weeks back.
You were 2
I
weeks
had
back.
just come back.
Okay.
So I was still very much,
Yeah.
I was still very much in Iraq.
Yeah. Right. You're still there, but
Yeah.
which is what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's like you come back and you're not there.
Right. And then
yeah.
didn't have the tools to get there.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's like, that stuff may have been available. I just didn't know about it, or have what I call the spiritual credit to engage in it.
Yeah.
So
but you're 2 weeks back and this event happens. So what do you do to try to be helpful to your son?
Well, when this, let's just say I was blessed because nobody was there when I went to collect him.
Okay. Because you were not in a good place.
I would not be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I understand. Yeah. I understand.
So, but here's the thing. Again, 2 weeks out of Iraq, I wasn't mad. I was just going to work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And what better reason? It was completely justified for me.
Yeah.
It was some dark shit that he went through, and I still don't know the full thing. But he told me a little bit. But the neighbors told me more when they heard him screaming. So yeah, it was like anyway.
Was it previous to this or after this that you had engaged in, was it Call of Duty that you guys
played?
No.
Oh, that's something that's now. Let's come back
later.
To that
Okay,
piece.
yeah. Okay, so continue telling the story then.
So I took emergency custody of my son.
Okay.
And I had just married my wife, Simona. Not that Simona.
Oh, I was saying, wait a second.
No, that's not my wife.
All right.
Just a very, one's my manager and one's my wife.
And they're both named Simona.
They're both named Simona.
That's so good for you. You can get them mixed up and no one will care. Yeah.
So, but
only so many times though.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. They're both. My wife's Czech and then Simona's Russian.
Oh, wow.
It's like,
yeah. There's something there. Yeah. There's something.
He's a traveler.
Yeah. So, so my wife Simona had been taking care of my son since he was in Pampers. So all of this is, you can extrapolate this from me and like apply it to her because she was very much innately involved in that whole experience. So, but we had just got married and I go, look, like literally a week. It was like a week. We were going to go on a honeymoon or something. And it was like, well, we can't go on a honeymoon now. So, I still got to make that up to her.
Oh,
Wait, no, we went to Hawaii. But that was for work, so that doesn't really matter. Anyway.
Yeah, put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Take wife on honeymoon.
Yeah. Take wife on honeymoon.
Yeah.
13 years later. So I asked her, I go, hey, we just had this thing happen, and I completely understand if you want to go hit the delete button on this marriage, but I have to take custody of my son. And she's like, of course. And I was like, man. I was like, okay, let's go do it. And we did. And the process of trying to get custody of my son was, it was, I mean, there were so many things going on at once, right? The event of my son, the state telling me that because I deploy, they're going to put him in a home if I deploy again. You know, because his mom's in a facility because she was, I don't want to put her stuff out there,
but she was unavailable.
She was unavailable.
Yeah.
And the state's telling me, I'll tell you a story. They go, I'm sitting there with this guardian ad litem. It's a state-appointed attorney for my son. And they go, so how much were you deployed last year? And I go, 10 months. And she goes, how about the year before? And I was like, 10 months. And she's like, well, we don't see how it benefits your son if you're gone 10 months out of the year for us to give you custody. And I was like, well, after this deployment, I can be around more. And she's like, well, we have a place we can put him while you're deployed. I was like, what, like a home? And she's like, yeah. And I go, well, what about his stepmom that's been caring for him since he was 2? You know, because his mom was unavailable, you know, and she's like, well, because of the language barrier, he may have problems with school and these types of things more than when he's in a. I was like, well, let me clear this up. I go, because I go downrange to serve my country. Right. You're gonna put my son in a home. And she's like, that's not what I'm saying. I was like, that's exactly what the fuck you're saying, even if you don't realize it. I go, what makes you think that I can go downrange and take life for a bunch of people that obviously don't give a fuck? And I wouldn't do 100 times more for those closest to me. Mm-hmm. And she goes, are you threatening me? I was like, no. I was like, don't worry about my job. They'll take care of me. I'll find something. We'll be okay. Wow. And so I had to step out. We were about to deploy in 2 months. And I had to step out of that and go to the West Coast as the only thing they could find for me to be able to be home, you know, and care for him, you know.
This is the Navy.
This is the Navy.
Yeah. Okay.
And they took care of me. Mm-hmm. And so I did that. We did that. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to, like, I mean, it's a complete, like, shift, right?
Right. So
how do you deal with that? Well, good question. So I had all those things stacked up. Now at the same time, this is around 2008, at the same time, I had to leave and go to the West Coast. Well, I have 2 empty homes in the East Coast. What else happened in 2008?
Oh,
right. Yeah, that inflation market shit.
Yeah.
That whole bubble bullshit that I got yoked by the banks, you know. And I'm not playing the victim here. This is painting the picture so you can see
right where you were.
Where I was. So, but there's a very real thing where, you know, like my house had gone up to $300,000 from $150,000. I was like, let's sell it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, what you want to do is take the equity out, buy another property, and do this, that, and that. I was like, and this is the banks. This is the IndyMac, no longer here. This is the, you know, Navy Federal Credit Union. This is, I double source checked it. I was like, okay, well, these are what the financial advisors are telling me to do. I'll do it. So I did. And it didn't work out so well for me. And a lot of people, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's that. And then one of the houses got destroyed while in the whole process. It was just a thing.
So you moved to Los Angeles, right?
No, I went to San Diego.
Oh, you went to San Diego. Okay.
So
yeah, why don't you pick up there in San Diego?
Yeah, so we moved over to San Diego. We moved over to San Diego and started figuring things out. Took a job where I could be home and care for my son and myself and my family and these types of things, right? But I had already been in, this was like, I'm at the, 19-year mark, 20 year? No, I was in for 20 already. I was already 20 years. I had 2 more years left or something like that. So that's like the end of my thing, right? So I was like, okay, well, we'll do that. And must be time. So as I'm there, I start having these, neurological things come up. Like I couldn't sleep for 4 days at a pop. I was like, I invariably, I'm going to kind of make this a little more succinct, but I had to get neurosurgery because of the IED blast in Iraq.
Which you didn't tell us about. So
No.
tell us about that.
So, during my first tour to Iraq, I had an improvised explosive device go off on my vehicle. I was in the turret and slammed me against the Humvee and knocked me out for a while, right? Next day, I had a whole bunch of problems with my ear, and I was like, none of us put 2 and 2 together, though, right?
So wait, I'm sorry. The device went off. Your vehicle fell.
No,
no.
It low ordered, meaning it didn't function properly. We kept driving.
You kept driving.
It was a blast that got me.
Okay.
And so invariably, which I think it was probably an amalgamation of things, then we go pretty heavy in the SEAL teams, but this kind of just pushed it over the edge. And it fractured, or at least they tell me it fractured my C5 and C6 is what the doctors tell me, right? And but I didn't figure that out. Yeah,
okay,
that's neck, and I didn't figure it out until 5 years later.
Right.
So
right.
wow,
God, you guys are tough, man.
Yeah,
I have
right?
all this pain, and why is this hurting so much?
Well, and
I
you
mean,
kind
you
of
can-
just like
And he can just be uncomfortable for so long.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing.
and then not sleeping for 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
Like I'm hospitalized if that's happening.
Yeah.
That's not something that I would be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely another mindset.
Well, I
there.
raised my hand. I was like, look, I can't sleep, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
Like I'm having a hard time sleeping. So they did what they knew how to do then, and they started pumping me full of pills. And then, so I was on, 13, 14 different medications at some
Damn.
point. And then they weren't working, so I was drinking too, so, that's always a great combination.
I
So-
always thought so.
The self-medication, man,
Yeah.
I feel you.
But it's all too common, right? So invariably that led to an event that I had neurosurgery in 2009. So that put me on painkillers and all these other types of things. I was on amphetamines, antidepressants, all these different types of things.
Wow.
And it all culminated one day while I was out training some students, where I like kind of went, belly up because I was having a pharmaceutically induced cardiac arrest.
Ooh.
And I was like, but here's the thing. It's like these students came running up to me, and I remember, and they're like, Chief, you look gray. Are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm dying, man. They're like, holy shit.
You're just like, I'm dying.
Yeah. and they're like, what do you want us to do? I was like, nothing, man. Nothing. I was just relieved. It was relief. It was like, yes.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
I do.
But I didn't. And that was the first time I had felt something, like I truly felt something in a long time. But it was fury. You know, because I got so angry at the people that were telling me that I needed to do X, Y, and Z, and the people that, you know, going in and talking about my problems every 2 weeks to Balboa Naval Medical Center, and like, you know, interfacing with different people every time, and just feeling like nobody really cared.
Right.
You know, they were just going, oh, let's, you know, study the SEAL, or try this and try this and try this, you know. And that was my perspective at the time, right? And so I was angry, very angry, lots of anger. And so I revolted against that whole system. And this is where we start getting into the whole other aspect of everything. I revolted against that whole system completely. Like, I was like, look, I started to do things that made me feel better that I had done in the past. One of which was rolfing. You know what rolfing is?
It's like scrubbing.
No, it's a deep tissue type of
yeah. It's
massage.
like they take the fascia. You can't even call it a massage.
No, it's
it's more
deeper
like
than that,
torture, but they don't ask you any questions.
yeah. They're basically kind of pulling
That's
the
probably
muscle
why I don't know anything about it.
Pulling muscle off of.
The fascia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have
Sounds
this.
painful.
You ever crack open? You've cracked open an orange before, and all that white stuff holding the orange together. That's like fascia.
Oh wow.
So you have that in your muscles, and it's supposed to be like a sheath that the muscle slides in. It keeps it in track, and all these types of things, right? But through injury, repetitive use, and these types of things, lack of hydration, all these types of things, scar tissue can bind to the muscle, so the muscle can't flex all the way, or has limited range of motion. So what they do is they use their elbow, a knuckle, a tool to anchor the fascia while you flex the muscle and tear the scar tissue.
Oh my goodness, that sounds horrible.
No, honey, you are not in line for that.
No,
I'll tell you that.
I don't go for pain.
It's not, but the effects afterwards are phenomenal.
Right.
Right? You release toxins, you release emotion, you release your range of motions much larger. You know,
Interesting.
You should absolutely check it out. You should do a 10 session.
Anyway. I'll keep an open mind.
So I started there. Well, they have kind of a different mentality around it these days.
Yeah.
You know, they're not as
intense
as they once were.
Yeah.
You know, you can find practitioners that use those principles, but then they move on. But
just before you continue from there, I just want to make sure that I understand where we are in time. You are 2 years away from retiring, right? Because you're 20 years in. Is that what you said?
What I'm talking about right now, yes. This was around 2010 or so.
Okay. And you've moved
2009
to San Diego so that you could be in your son's life on a day-to-day.
That was 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. The end of 2008.
And you are dealing with the trauma from all the years.
See,
right?
I never really classified it as
trauma.
I never felt traumatized.
What do you call it?
I call it a normal physiological response to abnormal conditions.
That part
like that.
right there. So you're dealing with a normal response to abnormal conditions. The result was, for a while, that physically, biologically, you were just way out of balance, right? You couldn't sleep. Were you in pain?
Always
in pain. You had the C4 and whatever
C5 and 6.
C5 and 6. Yeah. So they did the very allopathic Western medication thing of medicating you, sending you to talk therapy as well, right? Yeah.
I see how that went well.
Right. But in the meantime, you're still being a dad, right? Is that right? During this time?
That's stretching the term of dad, but yeah.
Okay, but
Trying to.
Right. You're still
Trying to.
Yes. You've provided a home.
I'm providing a home.
Yeah. Okay. And so now you're trying to take care of yourself, and now you've had this kind of shift where there's another way than the way that they're feeding you.
I haven't had the shift yet.
You haven't had the shift, but you've tried something from the past.
I had the what is is there a profanity filter on this one?
No.
Okay, good. I had a big fuck you moment, right? Like, fuck you, I'm not coming in to do your talking bullshit anymore. I'm not gonna sit there and woe is me. I'm gonna go out and do something about this because your shit's not working, right? For me, like, and to be quite honest, I think I met in all the people I've worked with, I've had one go, yeah, it's working. You know what they're doing. I've had one. They go, yeah, I think the pills are working for me. And I'm not saying I'm anti-pill or anti-medicine or anything like that. I'm not, but there's a time and place for it. And in 15 minutes of an interview, you're subscribing some freaking psychotropic drug on somebody's otherwise healthy brain.
Right.
That's not good medicine to me.
Yeah.
So to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, as a society, we're overprescribed. It's an epidemic.
It's expected.
Yeah.
They got into this thing where, we're going.
Yeah, we're
going down in a rabbit hole.
We're going down in a rabbit hole.
I think we've all placed too much responsibility on the medical field, but
well, and in a fact that, in case in point, I'll go back to this in a minute, but it's almost expected. Like, a doctor will get a bad review if you don't give the patient medication. Right. Then nobody goes to the doctor.
Right.
So they're kind of, and then they're grown up while they're going through school by these pharmaceutical companies and stuff. So
for sure.
Anyway,
so then you found Rolfing.
So I found Rolfing.
That was your first.
I had been using that for performance reasons for a long time, right? So I just did longer sessions of it. I was like, oh, I feel better after this. Well, from that, because I didn't have the same practitioner as I did on the East Coast, so I found the West Coast is a little bit different of a nut, right?
Oh yeah.
So, so it's a little more holistic, is what they were calling it, and that term to me was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried yoga, or have you ever tried acupuncture? And I'm like, no, I have not tried acupuncture.
Right.
And they go, you should try it. It may help with X, Y, and Z. And I was like, but I was in that place where I was like, who do you recommend?
Yeah.
So I go, and I had a friend, I'm like, you ever try this acupuncture thing, man? He goes, yeah, man, it's really awesome. He's a West Coast guy. Really
That's your West Coast.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll try the acupuncture. Who do you go to? And go this person. And I go, and Allison Schaefer's her name. She's in San Diego, and you should look her up. She's actually really good. So, got to give back.
Yeah,
got to give back.
Shout out to Allison Schaefer.
I'm taking notes.
So, lovely woman. So I started doing that, and then I started coupling the Rolfing with that, and of course, from the acupuncture, I look on the wall, and there's this meditation and yoga thing, and I'm like, what's Bikram's yoga? What is that? They go, well, it's this room where it's really hot and challenging and really hard. And I was like, that sounds, you gotta remember the guy with the Rolfing now.
Yes.
I'm like, let me check that out.
Right.
So I go in there, and you're in for a ride right when you walk in the room, the instructor, a little 5-foot woman, she's like, this is your first time, so your whole goal is to just not leave the room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how long's the class?
Right.
And then she's like, an hour and a half. And I'm like, or an hour, or what? I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
He
cracks his
within
knuckles.
within 15 minutes, I'm like, ugh. I was dying.
You were dying. The Navy SEAL was dying.
The little 5-foot woman.
That little 5-foot woman.
Yeah.
Killed me. There's all these other beautiful people around me, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm just laying there on the floor, right, trying to I'm leaking all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
That's awesome.
I was like, that was awesome.
Right? You didn't leave, though. You
I didn't
stayed.
leave.
Yeah.
Of course I didn't leave.
Yeah.
The gauntlet had been thrown.
Yes.
I was like, I will die in here today.
If necessary.
If necessary, I will die in here today
Right.
with a smile on my face. But no, I kept going back. I got pretty good at it. But then I hit this place where it was like, there's got to be something else. This is like, yeah, my body feels good and everything. And I'm, dealing with pain better. Pain was going away.
Mm-hmm.
I was starting to sleep, Then I found out about flotation therapy, the sensory deprivation things, Float Labs. Float Labs is a great place to go if you need.
Another plug.
So that's where I go.
Yeah.
And so I started doing this thing where I'd make a whole day twice a week and do them all back to back.
Twice a week?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really impressive.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
So I do them all back to back.
Mm-hmm.
I do this and this and this and this.
Like
and this
acupuncture, rolfing.
I started
yoga.
I started sleeping deeper.
Yeah.
The stress started going away.
Yeah.
Everything started to become more focused. I started to have experiences like where I was seeing things in my dreams while I was going through it. And I know what they are now, but I didn't at the time. It was like, whoa, these are pretty vivid. I'm going on these massive journeys, almost like,
What are they?
visions.
Oh, they're visions.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Visions.
But for you then,
For
they
me
just
then,
felt like dreams.
I was like, what is this? But they weren't just stuff that I was seeing. It was an internally generated urge to move in a specific direction. And it was like, a sense of urgency started building that you have to find someone. Like you're going to find someone. You've seen The Empire Strikes Back, right? All right.
A few times.
Yeah. So you remember the beginning where Obi-Wan Kenobi shows up, Luke's face down in the snow, and he's like, you are going to the Dagobah system, right? There you will find Yoda. Yeah. So I'm laying there, and I'm like, okay, Dagobah system, right?
So I'd have to stop you again because I want to, we don't have much time. How much time do we have, hon?
Well, we can go over
nonsense. I say.
I know we don't want to upset. No, I'm just
Right, we definitely don't want to upset.
No, I think we can go over and kind of filter through what we need to.
But tell me,
we've been going at it for about 50 minutes.
Okay.
So
I do want to talk about just for a minute because I was really struck by it when you told me that you played, was it Call of Duty that you played with him? Okay. Yeah. And I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about where you were and what you were doing when I spoke with you because you were on the set.
Yes.
Right. So can you tell me that story?
Yes. I will put a button in this and tie it in.
Yes. Thank you.
So, I found out about Kundalini energy and the power it has for creativity, and tried to find people to teach it in San Diego. It didn't work out so well and got weird on a lot of levels. And it was like I immediately knew. I was like, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. This is not Dagobah.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah, that was a nice pullback.
Yeah.
So I got up to LA, started doing some voice stuff. I'm pursuing the acting thing, and I'm working, immediately working, like right when I got here. It was fantastic. And
that's the dream. Yeah.
I mean, it's the path for me. And so I meet this person, and she's like, yeah, I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher. I'm like, oh, I heard that shit before, And she goes, no, you should come over to the Kundalini Yoga studio. And I'm like, oh, there's a studio?
Right.
And she's like, yeah. And so I go, and Guru Jagat's the teacher. Guru Jagat owns the Rama Foundation, right? Okay. First Kundalini Yoga class. And she teaches a class, and I'm sitting there, and they play this gong, right? They play this gong at the end, and like the class was super challenging, and a lot of breath work, and it's completely different. And I'm like, holy moly, what the? And then I sat there, and I'm laying there. They're playing this gong, and it felt like there was a lid on top of my head, and it fell open, and all this cool wind came in, right? Oh. And I'm like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and
you're like a blob.
Oh man, and then somebody comes up and whispers in my ear, "You're gonna spread this energy across the globe," and I'm like, whoa, and nobody was there.
Ooh.
And nobody was physically there. Right. So I go up and I'm like, what? I'm supercharged. I'm like, I got to learn this. I saw that there's a teacher training coming up, and she goes, you don't want to come here to do teacher training. You want to go see Huddy Jeevan. And I'm like, Yoda? And she's like, I think she may have even went like this, like with the. I think she might have even. You don't want to. This is not the Kundalini class you're looking for.
Yeah.
You know, and so I did. Never met these people before in my life. Right. I walk into this class. Right. Person's all dressed in white up there. I'm going, what? Turban. I'm like, what is going on, man? This is crazy, right? I'm sitting there and we do this breath of fire. We start doing it. Stops. Looks at me and goes, you're going to spread this energy across the globe.
Oh, stop. What?
I was like, this is it. You know what I mean? And I found it, and found my teacher, Huddy Jeevan. So this is why I was adamant about bringing this here.
Yeah.
Because the perspective is this. That is a very long-winded way to answer your original question about my son's death.
Right.
It's necessary, though, because in order for me to impart the impact it's had on me, you have to understand the journey.
Yeah.
Right? And the journey is this, is that, and this is going to get challenging, because of my son's death, I gained the realization of the purpose of his life. And his purpose was to pull me out of a life of destruction into one of truth, of the power of creativity that we all hold within us, and in service to broadcasting and propagating the experience I've had in this realm of truth to others. Everybody, not just veterans, not just, who we serve at Vital Warrior, but everybody. That is a testament of the power of this system under the lineage of my teacher, Huddy Jeevan, right? That I can see my son's death as a blessing, and that of a mission of pure light. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, that's one that, like, ever since he ascended, everything has just opened and opened and opened and opened. It's just non-stop. Non-stop blessings.
Yes.
So, but I believe also that everybody has this type of experience. That's what life is the journey towards realizing the infinite within the finite and then reciprocating it back. Right?
No, I believe that too, but I don't know if everybody comes to that realization.
They don't.
Yeah.
But that's the journey. That's what life can be.
Yeah.
That's you want to know the purpose? That's the purpose.
Right.
but there's so many things vying for control and distraction, and that's where all the discipline comes in, and the so, but yeah, and one of those blessings that me and my son shared, while he was here was video games. I've been playing video games since I was since video games were invented.
Right.
Pong.
Yeah, right.
Tennis for two is what it was called.
We're of that generation. It was Atari, wasn't it?
No. This was a machine that had knobs on it where the lines just went up and down.
Yeah.
It had two knobs on the machine to move the line up and down to play tennis for two. Then Atari came out later.
Good.
So then it was Commodore 60. Anyway, so but I had been playing video games. Video games have been a deep part of my life for a very long time. My whole life, really. And so Call of Duty, a number of video games actually. World of Warcraft was one too, but Call of Duty is really relevant because it's so funny, man. Like we'd play Call of Duty together. I'd be in Iraq, playing back with him, and while he's here, and I know people have a lot of different perspectives. Oh, it's violent. It's these things. It's that. And, people have perspectives, which is fine. But for me, that game broke down barriers between me and my son that I don't know what else could.
Yeah.
When you're in that gaming environment, you're having fun. You're connecting. That's what people don't. If you have children that are playing these games, obviously monitor them and, do what you're going to do. But understand that there's a very real social connection that's happening through that game. And if you take it away from them, you might be hurting their connection.
Right.
And one of the things that happened with my son is he would game. And then he had a girlfriend that made him stop. And that's when the real problems came. That's when the drugs came. That's when the, all these types of things came.
Yeah.
Because he bought into he was like, oh, well, let me go out here and escape.
Yeah. It took away the connection.
It made a different one that led him down into a, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'd do that. Well, like since he passed away, I was hired as a tech advisor to do some tech advising on a title that was released, Black Ops Cold War, right?
Right.
And that's in the Call of Duty franchise at Activision. And so I was originally just a tech advisor. Then COVID hit, and some opportunities came up. And then while we were actually shooting those opportunities, like I was asked to shoot some, it's funny. So in the game, you have these assassinations you can do where you go up behind the player and in multiplayer, and it performs an animation that gives you the kill.
Yeah.
Right. So they go, hey, would you be interested in like coming up with like 300 of these? I was like,
300
you're
assassinations?
You're asking me to come up with 300 different ways of different weapons and to assassinate somebody from behind.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're into it.
I can do that. So that's what I did with my team, and I have a fantastic AAA talent team that's been on the Avengers and all this stuff, and we crushed it, So one thing led to another. While we were shooting that, my son passed away, and then the success of I know it's all intertwined, right? All these creative energies and all these types of things, and there's much deeper conversations to be had, but we're over an hour and 3 minutes right now. So, I fully realized that there's some forces at work here, right? Well, fast forward to today, and I am currently working all of the Call of Duty franchises.
Wow.
Every one of them.
Wow.
So I'm working 4 different video games right now at once. So
wow.
Think of that as shooting 4 films at one time over a 3-year period of time. So
That's
put
incredible.
that into context, and running the nonprofit and a number of veterans programs that I'm teaching Kundalini Yoga, and I teach in Venice, and then I'm a dad for my daughter, and these types of things. So
amazing.
It is amazing. What's amazing is that in the past I wouldn't have been able to hold all that together. There's no way.
No.
Like I can feel stability. Stuff comes up sometimes. Sometimes I still have to. I got to take a day,
right?
And just do whatever it is I'm going to do. I can feel it though. I can anticipate it, and so I can kind of turn the knobs, and it's a very balanced type of thing that's going on. But it all came from the practice that I'm talking about. So, yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
That's it.
Nothing much.
That's it. Thank you for that.
Yeah.